Shwetaketu could not believe his luck. The great Vishwamitra had arrived at his Gurukul for the second time this year. He rushed to the gates of the ashram as the Malayaputras marched in. Namaste, great one, said Shwetaketu, smiling broadly, his hands joined together in respect. Namaste, Shwetaketu, said Vishwamitra, smiling just enough to not intimidate his host. What an honor to have you call on our Gurukul so soon after your last visit. Yes, said Vishwamitra, looking around. It is unfortunate that my students are not here to gain from your presence, said Shwetaketu, his expression reflecting heartfelt regret. Most of them are away on vacation. But I believe a few have stayed back. Yes, illustrious one, Sita is here, and I would like to meet Sita. Of course. Sita stood with Maharishi Vishwamitra near the balustrade at the edge of the main deck of his anchored ship, facing the far bank of the Ganga. Vishwamitra had wanted privacy, away from the curious eyes of the teachers in the Gurukul. A small brick-laid Ginkund was being readied by the Malayaputra Pandits on the main deck of the ship, a little distance away from Sita and Vishwamitra. Sita was confused. Why does the Maharishi want to speak to me? How old are you now, Sita? I will turn 14 soon, Guruji. That's not too old. We can begin, I think. Begin what, Guruji? Vishwamitra took a deep breath. Have you heard of the institution of the Vishnu? Yes, Guruji. Tell me what you know. It is a title given to the greatest of leaders, who are propagators of good. They lead their people into a new way of life. There have been 6 Vishnus in this present Vedic age that we live in. The previous Vishnu was the great Lord Parshuram. Jaya Parshuram. Jaya Parshuram. What else do you know? The Vishnus normally work in partnership with the Mahadevs, who are destroyers of evil. The Mahadevs assign a tribe as their representatives once their karma in a particular life is over. The tribe of the previous Mahadev, Lord Rudra, is the Vayuputras who live in faraway Pareha. The Vishnu of our age, what else do you know? I know that the previous Vishnu, Lord Parshuram, left behind a tribe as well, the Malayaputras. And you, Maharishiji, are the chief of the Malayaputras. And if a Vishnu must rise in our age, to fight the darkness that envelops us, it must be you. You are wrong. Sita frowned, confused. The assumption you made in your last statement is wrong, clarified Vishwamitra. Yes, I am the chief of the Malayaputras. But I cannot be the Vishnu. My task is to decide who the next Vishnu will be. Sita nodded silently. What do you think is the main problem corroding India today? Most people will say Ravan, but I won't. Vishwamitra smiled. Why not? Ravan is only a symptom. He is not the disease. If it hadn't been Ravan, it would have been someone else torturing us. The fault lies in us, that we allow ourselves to be dominated. Ravan may be powerful, but if Ravan is not as powerful as the people of Sapt Sindhu think he is. But he revels in this image of the monster that he has created for himself. That image intimidates others. But that image is useful for us as well, said Vishwamitra. Sita didn't understand that last line. And Vishwamitra chose not to explain. So, you say that Ravan is only a symptom. Then, what is the disease afflicting the Sapt Sindhu today? Sita paused to formulate her thoughts. I've been thinking about this since you spoke to us at the Gurukul. Last year, Guruji, you said society needs balance. It needs intellectuals, warriors, traders, and skilled workers. And that ideally, the scale should not be tipped against any group. That there should be a fair balance between all. And so, why is it that society always moves towards imbalance? That's what I was thinking. It gets unbalanced when people are not free to live a life that is in alignment with their innate guna, their attributes. It can happen when a group is oppressed or belittled, like the Vaishyas in Sapt Sindhu today. It makes those with Vaishya gunas frustrated and angry. It can also happen when you're made to follow the occupation of your parents and clan, rather than what you may want to pursue. Ravan was born a Brahmin, but he clearly did not want to be a Brahmin. He is a Kshatriya by nature. It must have been the same with Sita stopped herself in time. But Vishwamitra was staring directly into her eyes, reading her thoughts. Yes, it happened with me too. I was born a Kshatriya but wanted to be a Brahmin. People like you are rare, Guruji. Most people surrender to the pressure of society and family. But it builds terrible frustration within. These are unhappy and angry people, living unbalanced, dissatisfied lives. Furthermore, society itself suffers. It may get stuck with Kshatriyas who do not possess valor, and cannot protect their society. It may get stuck with Brahmins who prefer to be skilled Shudras like medical surgeons or sculptors, and therefore will be terrible teachers. And ultimately, society will decline. You have diagnosed the problem well. So, what is the solution? I don't know. How does one change society? How do we break down this birth-based caste system that is destroying our noble land? I have a solution in mind. Sita waited for an explanation. Not now, said Vishwamitra. I will explain one day. When you are ready. For now, we have a ceremony to conduct. Ceremony. Yes, said Vishwamitra, as he turned towards the Geen Kund, which had been built at the center of the main deck. 7 Malayaputra Pandits waited at the other end of the deck. Upon a signal from Vishwamitra, they walked up to the Geen Kund. Come, said Vishwamitra, as he led her forward. The Geen platform was built in an unorthodox manner, or at least one with which Sita was not familiar. It had a square, outer boundary, made of bricks. Encased within it was a circular inner boundary, made of metal. This Geen Kund represents a type of mandal, a symbolic representation of spiritual reality. Vishwamitra explained to Sita. The square boundary symbolizes Prithvi, the earth that we live on. The 4 sides of the square represent the 4 directions. The space inside the square represents Prakriti or nature. It is uncultured and wild. The circle within represents the path of consciousness, of the Paramatma. The task of the Vishnu is to find the Paramatma within this earthly life. The Vishnu lights a path to God. Not through detachment from the world, but through profound and spiritual attachment to this great land of ours. Yes, Guruji, you will sit on the southern side of the square. Sita sat in the seat indicated by Vishwamitra. The chief Malayaputra sat with his back to the north, facing Sita. A Malayaputra Pandit lit the fire within the circular inner boundary of the Geen platform. He was chanting a hymn dedicated to Lord Agni, the god of fire. A Geen signifies a sacrificial exchange. You sacrifice something that you hold dear, and receive benediction in return. Lord Agni, the purifying fire, is witness to this exchange between humans and the divine. Vishwamitra folded his hands together into a namaste. So did Sita. He began chanting a hymn from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Sita and the 7 Malayaputra Pandits joined in. Asato ma sadgame, tamasoma jyotirgame, mrityoma game, om shanti shanti. Lead me from untruth to truth. Lead me from darkness to light. Lead me from death to immortality. For me in the universe, let there be peace, peace, peace. Vishwamitra reached into a pouch tied to his waist and withdrew a small scabbard. Holding it reverentially in the palm of his hand, he pulled out a tiny silver knife. He ran his finger over the edge, bringing it to rest on the tip of the blade. Sharp. He checked the markings on the handle. It was the correct one. He reached over the fire and handed the knife to Sita. It had to be passed from the northern to the southern direction. This Geen will be sealed in blood, said Vishwamitra. Yes, Guruji, said Sita, accepting the knife with both hands as a mark of respect. Vishwamitra reached into his pouch and retrieved another small scabbard. He pulled out the second knife and checked its blade. Perfectly sharp. He looked at Sita. The blood must only drop within the circular inner boundary of the Geen Kund. Under no circumstances must it spill in the space between the metal and bricks. Is that clear? Yes, Guruji. 2 Malayaputra Pandits approached them silently and handed 2 pieces of cloth each to Vishwamitra and Sita. Each had been doused in neem juice disinfectants. Without waiting for further instructions, Sita placed the sharp knife edge on her left palm and folded her hand over the blade. Then, in a swift, clean motion, she pulled the knife back, cutting open the skin from edge to edge. Blood dribbled freely into the sacred fire. She did not flinch. Array, we needed just a drop of blood, exclaimed Vishwamitra. A little nick would have been enough. Sita looked at Vishwamitra, unperturbed. She pressed the disinfectant cloth into her injured hand, careful not to spill any blood. Vishwamitra quickly pricked his thumb with the knife edge. He held his hand over the inner boundary of the Geen Kund, and pressed his thumb to let a drop of blood fall into the flames. Sita also held out her left hand and removed the cloth, letting her blood drip into the fire. Vishwamitra spoke in a clear voice. With the pure Lord Agni is my witness, I swear that I will honor my promise to Lord Parshuram, always, to my last breath, and beyond. Sita repeated the words. Exactly. Jaya Parshuram, said Vishwamitra. Jaya Parshuram, repeated Sita. The Malayaputra Pandits around them chimed in. Jaya Parshuram. Vishwamitra smiled and withdrew his hand. Sita too pulled her hand back and covered it with a disinfectant cloth. A Malayaputra Pandit walked up to her and tied the cloth tight around her hand, staunching the blood flow. It is done, said Vishwamitra, looking at Sita. Am I a Malayaputra now? Asked Sita expectantly. Vishwamitra looked amused. He pointed to Sita's knife. Look at the markings on your knife. Sita picked up the silver knife. Its blade edge was stained with her blood. She examined the handle. It had 3 intricate letters engraved on it. Sages of yore, in their wisdom, had suggested that old Sanskrit should not have a written script. They felt that the written word was inferior to the spoken, that it reduced the ability of the mind to understand concepts. Rishi Shvetaketu had had another explanation. The sages preferred that scriptures were not written down and remained oral so that as times changed, they could change easily as well. Writing things down brought rigidity into the scriptures. Whatever the reason, the fact was that writing was not valued in the Sapt Sindhu. As a result, there were many scripts that existed across the land, scripts that changed from time to time and place to place. There was no serious attempt to develop a standard script. The word on the handle was written in a common script from the upper reaches of the Saraswati river. Sita recognized it. The symbols represented Parshuram. Not that side, Sita, said Vishwamitra. Turn it around. Sita flipped the knife. Her eyes widened with shock. The fish was the most common symbol across all scripts in India. A giant fish had helped Lord Manu and his band escape when the sea had devastated their land. Lord Manu had decreed that the great fish would be honored with the title of Lord Matsya, the first Vishnu. The symbol of the fish represented a follower of the Vishnu. This was the symbol on Vishwamitra's knife handle. But the symbol on Sita's handle was a modified version. It was a fish, no doubt, but it also had a crown on top. The fish symbol minus the crown on it meant that you were a follower of the Vishnu. But if the fish symbol had a crown on top, it meant that you were the Vishnu. Sita looked at Vishwamitra, bewildered. This knife is yours, Sita, said Vishwamitra softly.